Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Parasite. Most of the times when I think of the BongJoon-ho films I've seen, I think about how obvious they are about their satire. And particularly when they're talking about class. When I think of something like Snowpiercer, where the further you get in the train, the further up the social ladder you go. Or even Okja, I like that he's trying to do sort of message movies and trying to say something with these big landscapes. But oftentimes I found them to be overwrought and too much and too obvious. And then I saw Parasite. And Parasite is nothing like what I've seen before from him. It's stunningly more mature and more even-keeled, that I almost feel like this is like a later film from him or something. Like there's like 10 years I'm missing between Okja and this. It's almost surprising how much of a turn this is from Okja and how much better it's been than his last couple movies. But really what this film says about, like, I guess class and the class structure, it doesn't hold back, and it's not doing either side any favors, but it's also very well reasoned on both sides. Like, I think a lot of what we've seen this year are people going like, oh well, fuck rich people, which is fine because that's funny, and also fuck rich people. But in Parasite, it's like he wants you to be on the side of the disenfranchised and the poor, but he also wants you to understand the rich, which is very interesting. This is probably the deepest wealth disparity satire I've seen, and it's just so entertaining and so enthralling and so interesting. I can't really get into a lot of it because it heavily would spoil it for you, and I think a major part of the fun of this movie is not knowing what's going to happen. It is really exciting watching this movie. There haven't been a lot of movies that I come out and I'm sort of in a daze because I'm just like, I was so transported by it, and I've seen maybe a lot of clunkers, at least in theaters, or films that didn't totally take me over. This one so did. Like, I wasn't thinking about anything else other than this movie, and it really took me whole. You never are sure where it's going. It kind of plays with its own language to definitely not make you expect what's going to come from it, while also saying all these different things. This is definitely a film I want to rewatch again because I kind of want to see where all these things are coming from, possibly, as well as just like, it was such a great movie. It's the kind of great kind of art house foreign film that kind of breaks out, not just because it's really entertaining and it's really, I think, audience friendly and stuff like that, but it's also just like so exceptional at being a broad, big movie. For the most part, those films don't become what this has done rather well, and I can understand that because you kind of want to talk to people about it. It's a very like word of mouth type of movie, but in an exciting way. Parasite is really about a family who is poor. They're not making any money. They had to take a job just putting together pizza boxes just to make some sort of money. And then a friend offers the son a job teaching English to a rich girl in her house and being her tutor. He gets in there and somehow gets his sister a job as the tutor for the younger son, like an art tutor, and then gets his father instilled as the driver after they find a way to fire the driver, and their mother into being the housekeeper after they get rid of the housekeeper. He has to make up these lies like, oh, well, it's my cousin's friend, or she'll say, oh, I know this like responsible driver, or I think the last one they made like a crazy scheme about an agency or something. Like, they really just kept it so they had no clue these people were related. And I mean, and the saddest part is like they put this whole scam together to get jobs. This isn't a spoiler, but there's no like safe with like a diamond in it or like a lot of money or something. Like most times you see a scam movie, the scam is like I brought up Hustlers earlier. They're scamming people to get monetary value, and in this, the saddest thing about it is they're scamming these people to make ends meet. Like, they're not taking their credit cards, they're not like living high off the hog or whatever. They're putting forth all of this effort just to simply all be employed as a family. And there is a desperation to that I definitely understand, but there's also a total sadness to the fact that they feel like they've sort of made it by putting forth all this effort to scam this family into just doing well enough to have like Wi-Fi and cell phones and stuff. That, I think, really hit me because I don't think they love these jobs. This isn't like earth-shattering, like this is my dream job sort of job. This is just like so they have any sort of money. And I think they don't necessarily like love these jobs. They just love that they have jobs. And I think that's something they kind of don't tell you when you grow up, is sometimes they think you might not necessarily love or like your job or anything, but you just sort of have to have it to survive. You have to find any way you can to kind of get into it. And Parasite gets that desperation so well, that fight to just like keep things going. And that is probably one of the smartest things you could say about the wealth disparity, is that there are certain people who are feeling very relaxed, can take a nap during the day, can put on a huge party, can decide to everyone's going to go camping for their kid's birthday, or all sorts of nonsense that costs tons of money, and they do it at a whim. And these people are just like, what if we just were able to call people and eat food? And they have to put forth so much effort into that. One of the things I think I heard, I don't even think I heard it, I think I heard it from someone else, but it's a good idea. The idea that money gives you more options and more opportunities, but how they're wasting it, it like feels almost wasteful and sort of disgusting. But at the same time, these are people, and you kind of get where they're coming from or where they are. And this is just such a amazing, full, fleshed out film. It's definitely one of the best movies of the year, and I'm really shocked at how well BongJoon-ho did this, because I really didn't expect such a nuanced thing from him. But it's saying all these things, and I think it reminds me of things like My Man Godfrey or something, but it's so much smarter and nuanced about it. But at the same time, I also think the mystery and thriller within it is so good that like you could seemingly maybe watch this apolitically and not look into those things. I don't think you should. That sounds really boring. If you do that, then I'm sorry, you're really boring. But Parasite, it's got so much going on within it in just this glorious way, but it's so much more pared down. Like Ocha's like this $100 million production, it's like this huge thing, it's got American movie stars, all this nonsense, and this is just like a very simple amount of a cast, not that many people, but it plays so much better for him as a storyteller. That's remarkable to me. But it's really a dark satire, because they're fighting and scamming these people so everyone can sort of get by, and I think that's very real of it. But it has this very beautiful kind of realistic kind of reality to it before it has more fun with it. And I think when BongJoon-ho usually does that, we go off to Excessiveville, but in this there's like more layers to it, and there's more layers to the satire, but at the same time it becomes more enthralling. And I was just like definitely like in this movie the entire time. I really loved every minute of it. It's definitely one of the best cinematic experiences I've had this year. Just seeing this film for the first time is probably one of the greatest movie treats this year. Just being surprised by it, being shocked by it, but thinking about class and thinking about how you relate to it, thinking about how scared you are if anything were to happen to your job or your sense of income, and how you would fight for it, what you would do for it, but also how comfortable you can be in other cases while someone else is fighting hard to do all these other things, while you can be comfortable or are comfortable because of the work they put in. It's just a really great movie. It works on so many different levels. It does remind me kind of more of a big classic when Hollywood would make like kind of these 4-quadrant kind of big amazing kind of thrillers that appeal to everybody. They try to say all these things within it, and maybe not as successfully, but like this film does that in that way, where it's like just definitely trying to address a social issue, but is also kind of entertaining you, but it's also like giving you maximally one of the best thrillers we've had in a long time. This is Bong Joon-ho's masterpiece. It's a masterpiece because he's able to tackle a subject that he's always wanted to tackle, which I don't think he's ever tackled as successfully as this. So successfully, I think he can kind of leave it alone. I don't really need him to do this again. I'm sure, you're not going to give up your directorial style at this point, but so good with the characters and like what ticks people off and what they're fighting for. This film, the way the narrative moves and brings up some characters and lowers down other characters is really interesting. I really love this movie. I think Parasite is the film experience of the year. I don't really see anything else that blew me away as much as this movie did. And it's just about scamming your way to exist and how frustrating that is. And I felt that a couple times when the dad of the poor family was talking, and I've been there before, and it got that reality of it, that reality of just kind of scraping everything together and coming up with whatever you can to keep that up, and how frustrating that can be. And then you have to go to that job that you've scammed your way into and try to put a smile on your face and get through it. You obviously maybe don't want to be there, but you kind of have to be, because you have to get through this. In a lot of ways, I think this film says so much about wealth disparity, because it says what is kind of on both sides' minds and the kind of darkness of that whole system, and in a way like how you can use that system to hopefully sort of get what you want. But even if, as hard as you're working, the thing that you're getting maybe isn't that great to begin with, you're just sort of getting the chance to simply exist just a little bit to hopefully get by. And I think maybe that's like the great scam of modern capitalism, to hopefully like scrounge up enough to hopefully just continue to exist in a way. And Parasite, you know, it's an interesting title, because you're like, well, who's the parasite to whom? Are the rich being able to kind of suck off the poor by like using all their hard work to get what they need to have done, or all the poor kind of taking from the rich because they need them to pay, you know, their paychecks so they can pay for their place to live and food and everything like that? Or they both have this equally parasitic relationship to one another, which is just sucking each other dry and not thinking about how they're going to sustain each other in the future. You're going to leave it thinking about various issues and angry about certain issues, but at the same time you're going to be thinking like, holy crap, that was a really good movie. That was a really great time at the movies. That was a really intense, amazing, awesome film. And I think like that's one of the things about Parasite, is it keeps your brain going, it wraps you in with the story, it has kind of the full package of a movie, but leaving you thinking about how this is a relationship that is not pure, is not good, is just people kind of struggling to make it all sort of make sense, and to scam to sort of make all the nonsense of the world make sense just a little bit, is maybe the saddest thing about what's going on right now, and a reality that Parasite kind of spits at you when you definitely knew it before you walked in. So if you have seen Parasite and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.